what do I do? How do I get myself out of this funk? So just a basic of how to get out of depression type of question.
Depression is a result that you are distant from his place. Depression is a result of idolatry. In order for there to be depression, there must be an impression. Something has to impress on you and say, you know what? God ain't really about that. God is not love. God doesn't care. They want to make an impression on you that will lead you into suppression, then into depression. They want you to be able to say, you know what, God, this is getting old. Waiting on you is getting old. Trusting in you is getting old. Being faithful to you is getting old. I'm going to go about my way. As you leave God, you decrease in value immediately. One day away from God, you are so devalued. People think you got to be days away, Mal. No, you're devalued the moment you are not disciplined and being obedient. That's what sin is. Sin is that I missed the mark. That's why I got to make sure, Holy Spirit, help me get closer to the mark. We was once shooting, you know, when you're doing, what's that thing called? Archery. You've been shooting off of the little circle thing, so you've been shooting off in the woods. But as you get more disciplined with God, you get closer to the mark. But when you're not disciplined, you start shooting away and you begin to drift. When you drift, you're guaranteed to be depressed because you're swapping dependencies. You're saying, God, you know what? Thank you for the job. I'm no longer dependent on you. Therefore, I'm not working unto the Lord. Therefore, I'm not dependent on you. Now I'm being dependent on my goal-getting emotion. I'm more dependent on career and success. And then God be like, you know what? They're going to downsize in 2 years. So you done worked hard for the man. And then when you lose your job, this is sadness. This is depression. God's a realist. It's okay to be sad. No, let's change that. Let's put a D. It's okay to be disappointed, but it's a sin to be depressed. When you lose a job, you're disappointed. Dang, that sucks. I actually like it here. But when you are in love with God, you be like, God, but you're the supplier. You're my provider. Every step that I've taken in my life, my promotion didn't come from nobody but him. God will promote you in places where you're not qualified for. When you work unto man, you fail. Even if you do everything the man wants. But when you work unto God, you work greater than the common man. Because God, when you work unto the Lord said, lift your standards, lift your work ethic. You start outshining everybody because you're not working to the standards of the man, you're working into the standards of God. So when you're working into his standards, you start creating more money for the business to succeed. So everything grows when you work unto him. But when you start doing everything out of him, you done met that man, and you say, God, I'm no longer going to be dependent on you. I'm thankful that I have somebody. And when that man cheats on you, depression. Your dependency on God will determine how long you'll be disappointed. But when you truly love him, your disappointment will never go to depression. If you're depressed today, check your foundations. Because what you have been building on is sinking sand. When you build on the rock, that's why I love the story about the parable, or the story about the builders, one foolish, one wise. A lot of the people, or the person who built on the sand, was a foolish person, because sand to a degree looks solid, feels solid. Sand looks solid when there's never been water on it. It looks pretty stable. That person built on something that looked solid, but it's not solid through storms. The wise builder says, you know what? I'm not in the race to finish first. I'm in the race to be founded best. Most people want to build the thing first. My ministry's huge. God said, man, if your branches are wider than your roots are deep, when a storm comes, you will topple over. I rather have deep and strong roots than wide branches with a lot of fruit. Because if your roots ain't anchored, you're not stable. So when he ciphered through the sand and found the rock, then he built. You got to find the rock in every situation you're building. If your marriage is built on sand, it will sink. If your ministry is built on sand, it will sink. If your business is built on any and everything else but God, it will sink. That's why. Why is it taking 7 years, God? Because sometimes it takes 5 to find the rock. Many people want to build instead of saying, you know, I want to make sure I'm anchored. My advice to you is, why are you depressed? And I promise you there's a trail that leads to a place that you thought will hold you. And I promise you, if you say, you know what, God, you are able. I'm going to make sure I change the way I'm thinking, the way I'm moving, and make sure I'm anchored in you to such a degree that even if it takes 7 years to find the rock, I know 70 years I will still be standing. Depression is proof that you are not in love with God like you think you are. Because when you're truly anchored in him, you're disappointed, but you're not disappointed long. Listen, man, when you're really in love, the lights go out, you ain't complaining. You just grab a card of Uno's. Oh, you grab Uno cards. You find a way to make a bad situation into something good. When you find yourself in a storm, but God is in the boat with you, you're guaranteed to make it to the other side. Next question.
Next question.